we're playing Balatro. Let's play some Balatro, you dogs. New game, because every game of Balatro is new, because Balatro is live. Let's do this. Oh, for real. We don't really have a great hand here, guys. I'm gonna need a spirit bomb. This isn't great. Guys, I'm not feeling up to, oh my gosh, I'm dying for real. You know, in terms of creativity, this game is actually kind of awesome, but that is not something I should be saying, because the Balatro guys, they ain't chill. They'll rip out your lungs if you even say something about Jason Schreier or Gumbo Tumbo, Lovin' Man. I was once a kid like you, but like, I was better than you. Have you ever heard about like what's necessary for existence, and that like I don't actually know what the fuck I'm talking about? Yeah, me neither. There was this old guy, we'll call him Steve, right? And Steve was character, right? And this is some motivational stuff if you don't understand what's going on in your life. Just like, this is me telling you, hey, we're all there once, but I am better than you, so duly noted, right? You know, like, I am better than you. It's just, I'm sorry, but there's no real way of getting around that, so we're just gonna, but right, so back on track. Steve was stupid, you know, like even more so than me, and he never played Balatro, right? And we always said to him, right, once you play Balatro, maybe your wife would come back, right? But Steve wasn't like the rest of us. Steve loved lonely nights. Like, he really liked a cold bed, and that was interesting. Very, very interesting. The idea of a cold bed is almost as amazing as a warm one, because a cold bed is, in and of itself, not possible. Since a bed is meant to keep us warm during lonely nights, cold bed doesn't do that. And I think that the idea of being alone is not only scary, because the alone is where we feel most vulnerable as people, but it's also beautiful, because it's in being alone that we finally find true purpose. And I think that's kind of nice. Now, Steve, back on track again. Let's talk about Steve. Steve died. In 1962, Steve was hit by a truck, right? My mate died. We were all at his funeral. You know what we all said? We said, thank God he's gone, because Steve was such a dirty dog. Yeah, I lied about that. Steve was actually my uncle, right? And the idea about him being alone was not only the fact that he lacked a partner and someone to help him through his existence, but in general, he was just alone. And I think that's interesting. So the moral of Steve is actually the moral of people in general. And whilst we may love to be alone, sometimes we have to reach out and touch some grass and exist. Actually, that's a pretty good card. Actually, right. I do want to talk about the allegations of funny jokes made at the wrong time, and all by my assumption that that child was struggling with their Tourette's, and I hope that you don't hold that against me. Tourette's in general is an illness, and a lot of kids have it. And I can't believe, when I said that kid had Tourette's, I meant that kid struggling with an illness. Don't want to live without it. Must be honest. So, the overall moral of the story is, tell people they have Tourette's, but if you do something now, well, then you do it now. I think that's a really good thing. Another thing that is highly, like, scary, to be honest, is the idea of, you know, change. Now, this is, I wrote a whole book, it's called Changing the Perception, yeah? Yeah. So Changing the Perception is a story, well, it's a documentation on how we perceive ourselves and how we change that. Now, in fact, it's changing the perception we have upon ourselves. And it's a very, good book. I highly recommend it if you have not read it. New York Times best-selling writer right here, guys. Gotta be honest, I am better than all of you, so you gotta read my book. But let's get down to brass tacks. The ideas of the book are on point, right? Like, changing your perception of yourself, right? The book's title itself doesn't make any sense, right? And overall, I think it's a great storyline that really digs deep into your soul over the course of its 3-hour runtime. Highly recommended. The audiobook was voiced by Stephen McKiggle. McKiggle is a man whom I am best friends with. Steve, we go way back, best friends back in high school and whatnot. We were just so close, for real. I almost fucked that up. Give me a sec, guys. Anyways, Bellatro, me and this dude, we were best friends back in high school. Me and John Bellatro, yeah, we knew each other. There's this idea that a lot of people think I have, that I'm insane, right? I'm told constantly by this guy who lives in the walls that, oh, dude, I'm not actually real. I'm just your imagination. And I'm like, no, I can see you and I can hear you, and you're in those walls, and I know you're there. And he's constantly like, dude, I'm not real, man. I'm not real. I just know that he is. Everyone says I'm insane because I think that the man in the walls is real. I don't think that's true. I think he is, and I know he is. And I think that the idea that I know is what drives people to think I'm crazy. Don't you? Alright. Listen. I can understand a continuous hatred towards commentary, but let's be honest. I am just better than you lot. I am awesome. I am way cooler. And if you think that I'm not, you're just deluding yourself from what is the best human on the planet. Right? And I talk so high and mighty. And I do. I talk high and mighty. That's because I know I'm better.
If tomorrow, okay?
Yeah.
What are you playing?
Electro.
What's that?
Poker.
You're not actually betting
No,
on me?
no, it's just me having fun. Yeah.
I don't like gambling.
I stop gambling.
Alright, well, yeah, ARF tomorrow, okay?
Oh,
yeah.
bye-bye,
There's
Mum.
lots of things that there isn't being bought if you don't do the right
Wait.
thing.
Satchel. Anyways, guys, sorry for that interruption. My mother's just talking. Keeps telling me I shouldn't post these rambles online. I mean, why would she? She doesn't understand my art, man. I'm an artist, and my artisticness is not. She'll never get it. She just doesn't understand that I am the best, and that even if she doesn't care or really get any of this crap, it's okay. It's alright, guys. I'm struggling to make ends meet, and that's why I've gotta ask you, hit the subscribe button. I need to be able to get money because I can't support my voices in my head. I know it's bad. Just in general, it's not a good thing to not be able to do that, and I'm scared. And this is a bad omen. Wait, I've seen him. Yeah, it must be in my imagination. It's crazy. I'm gonna give you some more wisdom. In life, there are 3 types of people, right? Well, actually, let's narrow it down. I want to start my first wisdom sesh off with what I consider one of the 3 core principles of existence within a school, right? Because school is, well, we all go through it. Well, at least I think we do. I haven't talked to the kids in Africa yet. They said that I wasn't cool enough to hang out with them. And I think that that's on them because I am the best. And the whole idea of school is it's basically it is the idea that the dumbest people get the furthest because the dumbest people normally have charisma, right? And although I am charismatic, I am not stupid, and I can tell you right now that I'm better than you. So, I didn't get far, but I got far enough to know that I am better than everyone else. And, for good measure, I should say that there's this kid, his name, we'll call him Billy McFarlane, right? Billy McFarlane, he was the bee's knees, right? Everybody was sucking him off. Everyone was theoretically, metaphorically doing that stuff. He was the best, right? Everyone looked at him with admiration. And although he had admiration, I felt he looked hollow to me, right? Like, he looked like he was missing something. Was it the idea of, like, friendship? No, maybe not. Was it the idea that maybe he was alone? Maybe he was left with nothing? Maybe. Was it the idea that he's just kind of cringe and not really an interesting person? Definitely. He could have been not interesting. But actually, I think it's more to do with the fact that he thought he was awesome. He thought he was a good person, and yet he wasn't. And I think it's the hubris that comes from that really drives it home. That, like, this man has so much people-pleasing power, and yet he was so stupid. And it's sad, but it's true. He was very dumb. He was very dumb. And I see him on the street, and tell him that maybe he should have, when he had the chance, like he said he did it 5 times while storming out of the room, It's crazy, dude. I mean, what the hell? There's also this quote that came out a couple years back. I like to quote this man. His name was Tom McGronk. Tom was a man who no one really knew, but we all saw him hanging around, and Thomas was strange. He was odd. And although being odd is, like, not a badish thing, it's just a weird thing. I think that's honestly strange. Like, he was weird, yeah, but he was a character. And I think being a character sometimes can really help you in this world of sadness and misery. And so I had to make the choice. Do I become Thomas McGronk, or do I stay being a human? And I made the choice. Human it was. I decided that I would stick with my cringeness and become awesome. And look at me now. I am really cool. I'm playing Balatro, having fun, and I'm just better than you. So, what can I say? Another thing you may not quite understand is that... Sorry guys, voices are starting to come back, man. I can't believe that, man. So, let me give you some advice, right? Like, my son, his name is Tom. Anyways, when Tom died, I felt a bit lost, right? But I found my way back. And do you want to know how I did that? I discovered the idea, of giving up. And I gave up on her because she wasn't good for me, right? I felt that was the best decision I ever made. And although it didn't feel like it at the time, looking back, it was a great thing to have someone be there, to help you, to follow through with you. It was beautiful. And, it was nice, She was also just, like, kind of lame, but, When looking back at the ideas that I displayed, I thought it was awesome. Again, in my book, Glorious Tonk, I did discuss this concept of loneliness. And I think it came across really well in that, but I will go again here because, again, it's a very powerful subject that not a lot of people have anymore. So it's worth bringing up. Loneliness is something that we all deal with. Fair enough, we can get that out of our chest. But it's something that we all have to deal with. It's not something we want to. No. It's something that we have to. I think that is the powerful thing of loneliness. Beautiful music. The idea of existence is, you know, weird. We all exist to some extent. Left card into the right. Do you want to hear there's this story, right? Like, it's a little thing, but it's a really nice thing. I actually really do like. It's it's an old fable from a book called How to Make the World a Better Place from as little effort as possible, right? And although it never sold well, and the author has stated multiple times that probably shouldn't have made that book, it's actually a really beautiful story, one built on hardship and built on loss at the same time. And the fable that speaks out to me is one about an ant. And the ant is standing in front of a big piece of sugar, right? And then he's like, oh my gosh, I am so small and the sugar is so big, but if I were to have it, I could be rich, right? Like, this is all I would need to live for decades into the future. And the ant's sitting there, and he's contemplating how he would get the sugar back to his home, how he would, you know, fix up his life once he did get the sugar back. And he's going all through the motions and he's thinking. And the ant, whilst thinking, someone else comes along and picks up the sugar. This ant, this little guy, this little friend that we've said, hello, hi Mr. Ant, you're a great dude, but you're not cool, you're not interesting, you're just there, you know, like, ooh. He was just, no one cared about him. And I think that's a big piece of the idea, you know, like, this ant had people around, but he lost them. And he lost them because he didn't care enough to ask them how they felt. He threw away his own humanity for the chance to be something more. In other words, he gave up his life of happiness for hubris. And I think that is a cool idea that should be explored. Now, this fable is, well, it's complex. There's a lot of layers to it. It's very, very, very fluid in its ideas. But it's honestly an interesting piece of literature because of how it deals with the morality of being human. And so, when push comes to shove, we have to decide, will we be the ant and wait for a savior that may never come, or the idea that will make us perfect? Or do we go ahead and pick that sugar up and chow down? And personally, I think if I were you, I would pick up that sugar. Because even if that sugar is bad and terrible and it takes a lot of effort, you still picked it up. And it means a lot when you try something, even if it may not work. In other words, do something cool, something amazing that makes sense to you. Doesn't matter what other people think. That's what you think. And the ant taught me that. And it also taught me that I'm about to lose this bloody game because I am not good enough. But the ant's story is beautiful. And I think with the ant's idea, we have now reached our conclusion of today's ideas in Bellatra. I'm going to be back, and I'm going to be better than you. I'll see you next week.